Hi, Carrie here. So today we're going to talk about conflict. Conflict tends to be viewed as a negative thing, and it can be when it's done poorly. Tensions are high, emotions are strong, words and tones can become aggressive, and feelings can get hurt. It can be really uncomfortable. Parents oftentimes think they're doing the right thing by trying to shelter their children from their own personal conflicts. Other times, they try to rush in and resolve conflicts between siblings. And why? Because conflict can feel uncomfortable. It brings the peaceful environment we all crave to a screeching halt. But conflict, when dealt with appropriately, can actually be a positive thing. So we need to equip our kiddos with the skills to deal with conflicts appropriately. One, because conflicts are inevitable, and two, because children can actually be better for it in the end. So let's take a look at 6 reasons conflict is actually a good thing. Number 1, it generates new ideas, encourages creativity and progress. By challenging ways of thinking, you open the door to coming up with possibly better ways to do something, or at least validating the current way is still the best way. Number 2, it creates an opportunity to express needs. When we're engaged in conflict, we have the opportunity to express our needs and suggest ways to get those needs met. Now, obviously, this can go sideways really quickly, so it has to be done in a constructive, positive way, which is why our kiddos need the skills to do this. But it's an opportunity for our children to learn how to be assertive appropriately in an effort to get their needs met. Number 3, it encourages flexibility. Did you catch my video on flexible thinking? If not, check it out. In it, I talk all about the importance of developing flexible thinking skills in our children, and working through conflict is a great way to do this. I put the link in the description below. But when we're engaging in conflict, when we're doing it well, we're forced to look at all things differently. If we want to truly resolve a conflict, we have to be flexible in our thinking and open to opposing ideas, and ultimately coming up with a mutually agreeable solution. Number 4, conflict helps develop problem solving skills. With conflict, you obviously have a problem that needs to be resolved. By engaging in the conflict and working towards a solution, children have the opportunity to develop their problem solving skills. This involves assessing the situation, understanding the different perspectives, evaluating all of the alternatives, and determining the best possible solution. All super important skills for our children. Number 5, conflict makes you more committed to the outcome. When you have to work through something hard, you tend to be more committed to the end result than if it was just given to you. When you work through conflict to get to an outcome, you now have skin in the game, which will automatically make you feel more connected and committed to the end result. And finally, number 6, it shows your child that conflict is a normal part of life and relationships. Think about it. If as parents you hide all your disagreements and conflicts from your children, what are they going to think the first time they're confronted with a conflict? They're going to be scared, right? It's going to feel strange, and they're going to wonder what's wrong with them. By exposing children to conflict that's handled positively, it normalizes it for children and shows them it's just a natural and normal part of relationships. And you will have hopefully provided a roadmap for them to use when they face their own conflicts. But conflict handled poorly can be a really scary, traumatic event with long-lasting consequences, and a result that often leaves you worse off than where you started from. So, how do we help our kids develop the skills to engage in positive conflict resolution? Here are 5 ways. Number 1, first and foremost, be the example. Your kiddos are watching everything you do. They'll follow your lead. If you engage in name calling or using physical aggression to deal with conflict, guess what? your children will probably do the same. So this one's on you, parents. You have to make sure you are modeling the conflict resolution process and skills you want your children to. You can't expect them to do what you're not able to do yourself. Number 2, pause. Many times, there are some really big, hard to manage emotions surrounding conflict. If you jump right into the conflict, you'll be responding emotionally, which will make everything else in the interaction 10 times more difficult. It'll be harder to listen. It'll be harder to express your feelings. It'll be harder to process information. You may even say or do something that's hurtful, making the situation worse and the conflict that much harder to resolve. So help children in identifying and labeling their emotions. Encourage them to take a personal timeout, not as a punishment, but as a helpful way to get control of their emotions before jumping back into the conflict. Help them understand the downsides of responding emotionally. Teach them that they should feel in control of their emotions before they start to try to resolve the conflict. Find a go-to phrase for your child that they can use, such as, I'm feeling really, insert emotion. I'm going to come back in a few minutes when I'm feeling more in control of my feelings. It's kind of a long one. Or you could say something like, I don't want to say or do anything that may hurt you, so I'm going to come back to this in a few minutes when I feel calmer. Or you can simply say, I'm going to go take a personal timeout. Regardless of how you say it, it's important to set limits and make sure your children know that physical or verbal attacks are not okay, ever. And so they need to figure out ways to deal with and control the big emotions they're experiencing before they go into the conflict. Number 3, communicate clearly. Teach your child how to express their feelings and opinions clearly. Teach them that this is how others will understand them the best. Teach them how to express themselves without accusing the other person. Practice I statements. For example, instead of saying you statements like you never share your toys with me, or you won't help me, or this is all your fault, which all feel very accusing, right? And can make the other person very defensive, both of which are going to make the conflict more difficult to resolve. Instead, teach them to say, I would like it if we could play with these toys together. Or, I feel sad when we don't play together. Or, I would love your help on this. This teaches them to focus their statements on themselves and their thoughts, the things that they're in control of. And again, make sure your kiddos know that name calling or saying things that attack the other person are not acceptable, and they do nothing to help resolve the conflict. Number 4, listen well. This can be a tough one, even for adults. When we're so focused on what we have to say and getting our needs met, it can be really hard to listen to what the other person's trying to say. Encourage them to listen without interrupting or worrying about what they want to say. If this is hard for your child at first, practice taking turns. You can even set a timer if that's helpful. And if someone interrupts, the other person's time starts over. Sometimes it's also helpful to have one person repeat what the other person just said. This has 2 benefits. It makes sure your child is listening, and how they repeat it back to you gives you insight into how they're interpreting the information. Number 5, evaluate your options. This one takes practice. Help your child think through the pros and cons of each side to find the best solution for everyone. Depending on the situation, this may be easy and automatic. For more complex conflicts, you may need to walk them through the evaluation process. Even using paper and pen so they can visually see all the options and identify the pros and cons. Over time and with practice, this will become more natural for kids, and they'll be able to do it themselves. But in the beginning, they're going to need some help. Number 6, teach that win-win is the ultimate goal. Teach your child that a win-win solution is always the goal. If someone wins by aggression or because the other person simply gives in, someone's ultimately losing. And this means you didn't really resolve the cause of the conflict. You just made it go away, which means it'll probably pop up again, and probably soon. And when we do all of this, we help ensure our children won't fear or avoid conflict, that they can learn how to resolve conflicts in a positive and productive way, that they can maintain healthy, positive relationships even in the midst of conflict, and that they can learn to have empathy for other people's feelings and experiences. And finally, they can learn new perspectives. Sounds good, right? So go ahead, let kids work through their conflicts. Let them see you work through your conflicts. Let them build the conflict resolution muscles that they know that they have. Conflicts in life are inevitable. So while we can't protect children from them, we can make sure that they're prepared for them. You got this. Want more of this? Let's stay connected. You can subscribe here. Also, make sure to scan the QR code to get weekly-ish visits from me in your email with tools and resources to help you get your kiddos and your family out of survival mode and on their way to thriving. I promise I will only send things I believe will be ultra valuable to you. So I'm so thrilled we got connected, and I can't wait to see you again. Welcome to the Well-Equipped Family.